Hey, what's up everybody? It's Dave Duford here at Duford Insurance Group, where I train and recruit agents nationally to sell things like final expense, Medicare, and annuities, both face-to-face and over the phone. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you happen to enjoy this kind of content. We do lots of videos every single week. So the purpose of this video is to give you two simple steps on how to write big final expense premium policies. So again, the reason I'm putting this together is I want to share with you some techniques that I've developed over the past many years, now 10 years actually, since I started in final expense, that I myself have used and have also taught my other agents to use to maximize their policy sizes for final expense without increasing the risk of possibly having a policy that's so big that the client can't afford it because they were talked into it, and thus you have lapses. So in other words, what we're going to teach you, these two tips, very simple tips, very profound and very effective strategies, will help you get more money, more premium, more coverage for your client when it's appropriate, only when it's appropriate, without having them overpay and end up lapsing the policy. So the kind of best way to describe this is a story actually I had shared with me this morning with a new agent of mine named Eric out of Virginia. This is his third or fourth full month into the business, brand new to final expense. And he submitted approximately 26 or 27,000 in final expense in 1 month, and he only wrote 31 policies to do that and only had one lapse last month. So if you do the math and you divide 31 into 26,000, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of $850 to $900 average case size. Now that's well above the average case size of around 600 to 650. So what Eric is doing here using these techniques is he's increased his profitability, it's kind of the way I'd look at it, by $200 to $300 extra per sale than if he hadn't used these techniques. So let's jump right into this, because you can tap into the same strategy that Eric uses no matter where you sell and what kind of product you sell, whether you're captive or independent. So the first technique is price conditioning with an inflation talk. So let me describe to you what this means. So inflation is, of course, the process of prices increasing over time for goods purchased. And if you look at the inflation rate on average for everything, we call it the Producer's Price Index, I think is what it is. It goes up by 2 or 3% every single year. But when you compare that to the cost of funeral expenses, the rate of increase, inflation, with funeral expenses is like much higher than that, measurably higher, in so much that the average funeral has increased 250% from $5,000 for an average funeral in 1986 to around $12,500 for the same thing in 2017. And of course, you're watching this probably in 2021 and beyond, so it's only gotten worse. So where am I going with this? Why do our prospects care, and how is this going to help you sell more insurance? Because if you think about it, first of all, prices don't go the same. They usually don't go down, almost never go down. They usually don't stay the same, and they only go up. And this is a shared understanding throughout all people everywhere across the country. People who are 50, 60, 70 years old remember when gas was cheap. They remember when a gallon of milk was a quarter and bread was a nickel, and it's crazy how expensive everything is. It's just kind of a shared understanding that people who are seniors have. And likewise, what your job is to do is extrapolate that understanding, not just to the basic things of everyday life, but also to funeral expenses, and show them how crazy and out of whack it will continue to go with inflation rates staying the same on an average basis that they have been over the past 100 years. So where this goes is that ultimately, at the end of the day, buying a policy is not just about taking care of today's costs, it's about taking care of tomorrow's costs, the cost in the next 10 years, 20 years, and beyond. And what we teach our agents at Duford Insurance Group, whether they're selling on the phone or in person, is we show them chart, we share them information about how prices rapidly increase. And what that means in numerical terms in 20 years, for example, approximately 2020 to 2040, the price for a burial is going to double. And therefore, you probably shouldn't just get enough for today's prices, but also plan for tomorrow if the client has the ability to pay for it. Now, this is what we call price conditioning, where We're conditioning the client to accept a higher price to buy something than they originally had with whatever perspective they had before our sales conversation. This is critical in order for you to get more premium, higher premiums out of your clients by showing them a reason why to own more. And this is a tactic that's commonly used throughout many different industries. I've shared with my agents in the past how I've had a number in mind of how much I was going to spend on furniture, but as soon as I went to the furniture store to outfit my new home, sitting on the couches, laying on the beds, feeling and smelling the new furniture smell, it just opens up your pocketbook and willingness to buy because you become excited. You're in the moment. You see a reason to own more. And I ended up spending 50% more than I expected. Likewise, the same psychological factor happens when we share the inflation talk with our clients. It just simply gives the client a reason to own more final expense insurance, thus possibly increasing the ability to get your client to buy more than they originally thought at a higher premium. So tip number 2, to use in conjunction with the inflation talk and price conditioning, is also what we call strategically selling the premium. So there's really 2 ways to sell a life insurance or final expense policy. The typical way that most of you all out there learn is selling the face amount. We can show you a 5, a 10, and a 15, or whatever the face amounts are, and then let the client choose. If they object, we lower the face amounts down. The reason I don't like that is because what if you show a 5, 10, and 15, and there's some arbitrary amount that you've decided, and the client picks the 15? The instant thing that goes through my mind is, why didn't I show the 20 or the 25? Because what you're showing them in their minds is the options. It's the only options. They don't understand we can go as high as they want to. So there's a potential with this strategy to lose out on maximizing the sale that the client would tolerate or allow. So the way that I have overcome this in teaching my agents, like for example, talking earlier with Eric, how we've increased policy sizes by 50% in some cases on average, which incredibly increases profitability, is selling a premium budget. So kind of here's how it goes. This is not showing the prices. This is pre-qualifying on a budget that they can easily afford. What we do tactically is that we begin the process by making sure they understand we know they're on a fixed income. We're not out to take all their money. And then we ask them, if I can qualify you for a program today, can you afford somewhere between $150 and $200 a month? Zipper mouths. We say it with some courage, some guts, and then let the client answer. Now, more often than not, I can see what you guys are doing on the other side of that monitor or smartphone. You're clutching your chest. You're like, Dave, you're nuts. These people don't have 2 pennies to rub together, much less $200. Why would I even ask something as stupid of a question that I know the answer is going to be no to? But that's where the psychology comes into play. You see, there's this factor that when you ask for a high premium, knowing it's probably going to be lower, and you end up something less than that, there is a relative perception the client has that going from $200 a month down to say maybe $75 to $100 a month, that seems like a significant savings. But if you started with $75 to $100 a month, you might have had the client agree to say $40 or $50 instead. And because it's, it's the first offer. I don't know about that. Maybe something different, maybe 50 to 75. Well, I might can do that. Okay, how about 40 to 50? Bingo. So what happens is by going from 200 to 75, the client thinks they're getting a steal of a deal. But actually, we know by asking this question in this way, we end up higher than had we started lower. And the other advantage is, guess what? Occasionally, somebody says, yeah, I can afford $150 to $200 a month. And you're like, all right, man, I'm going to score a big deal. So it serves 2 points when you sell the premium. Number one, you are able to sell a higher average premium because you started high, work down, show your willingness to work on the budget, and what you end up with commonly is higher than if you didn't do it. And then the other advantage is you offer a high premium for the occasional time when you've got a serious buyer that wants to spend a lot of money, so you won't be in the position of missing out had you only offered a 10 or 15 and an arbitrary number that you thought was good, but the client could have afforded more. So these strategies work hand in hand. Sell on price conditioning, get the client to understand they need more if they can afford it, while simultaneously selling a premium amount where you end up with a higher level than had you not. And in combination with these two, this is how you're going to increase your policy size and final expense. These are two very easy strategies to use. I execute them daily with my agents. I teach them how to do it as a part of the script. It's non-negotiable because I know it makes that much of a difference for my agents. So use them, tell me how you think about it, and give me an update status in the comments below if you find what we talked about actually works pretty well. And if you like this kind of training, if you are impressed by this kind of thought process and how to execute a final expense sales presentation, whether face-to-face or over the phone, I ask you, check out my agency to learn more about how you can get more of this on a continual basis. All you have to do is click the links above or below to learn more about how working with DeFord Insurance Group works, to see if it's a good fit, and you'll see what steps to take if you, in fact, in your due diligence, find it's a good fit. And as always, thank you so much for watching. We shall see you next time. Take care.